Moving on now. In our country, it takes a little action or events for other chains of reactions to spring out amid the ongoing investigation into allegations of financial fraud at the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs and Poverty Alleviation. Criticism have been leveled against the Minister of Interior, Olubunmi Tunji-Ojo, over alleged use of his office to secure a contract of 438 million naira for a company, New Planet Projects, which he founded. But the former Kaduna Central lawmaker, Senator Shehu Sani, and some civil society organizations, CSOs, have come to his defense. Senator Sani urged said the minister has not violated any law by being a shareholder in the company. Kolawole Johnson, you want to shed more light into this?
Yeah. The minister in question, has been seen as the star boy of this administration, and he caught out like one with tall ambitions of deliveries, and backed with the competence and the requisite capacity. If you look at what he has done in a very short time, you can easily give him that kudos, from resolving over 200,000 passport backlog, to getting his friends to release over 4,000 inmates, getting them to contribute, and introducing e-gates, the e-pass. He's done, you can commend him in this very short time, but that is not to say that we should keep our eyes away from whatever we see that is not also good. Of course, some people are advocating that, that he has not committed any crime. Clearly, he hasn't. If you look at the law, I think I read this. I read a schedule of the 030424 that said public officers shall not be prohibited from holding shares. What they must not do is to be directors of such companies, and clearly that is the position with his own case. He resigned from this company as far back as 2019, and he's no longer a director there. So you can't say the company cannot do business in Nigeria. Of course, where would they do business in the first instance if not Nigeria? And I think I read a report somewhere where they said the company has been working with that same ministry. Maybe has done some things for them in 2016 and 18. So, which Shehu Sani, I think you can go there and say, okay, he has not done anything wrong. However, let us look at influence peddling in government. Are we sure that he wouldn't have used this influence to get a contract for that company, whether it's there or not? Let us ask that question critically. However, on the point of the law, you sure can hold him on anything. And the fact that he has done so well in office within a short time, you should have known that some people will be out to any small fault will be amplified. Are you not asking question why right now people are not talking about the 37 billion naira again that was taken? Exactly. We are talking about this. About how much? Can't you? Well, we are in this public space. Why is it that is not getting the mention again? But they are focusing all of their attention and pushing this at all costs. We should be asking questions. I agree that he hasn't done anything, but we should also. This must have also taught him a lesson that no matter what, keep away. You're doing a good job. In fact, he's seen as a star boy. Any spec like this is not good for him in any way at all. And I'm very sure that this will also serve as a deterrent to other ministers in the place to not to get involved. But I think leaving it alone is not doubt. The president can't even.
I think there's a conflict of interest here. Conflict of interest is the extent that I can take you readily to the former vice president. He runs a firm they call Simon Coopers. At a point in time, Simon Coopers independently went to EFCC to try to be one of their defense attorneys. And immediately he got to the vice president. The vice president got to know, I brought this company to Nigeria. It's a company I resigned from. And the vice president unilaterally removed Simon Coopers from that brief.
Okay, so
because of interest.
Ayo, it will only be a conflict of interest if it were to be the minister's own ministry. As in, if, for instance, he was a minister of humanitarian affairs and he now gave that contract to his former company, or where he has a share, that is where the conflict of interest comes in. But he has even resigned, and he doesn't have anything to do with that ministry. So there's no conflict of interest there. You understand what I mean? So if for instance, we are having this conversation and you have a company, there is nowhere in the law that says, oh, when once you hold public office, you cannot have shares. I can have shares, but I must not be a director in any of those companies, in any company that is either going, to look for contracts. Take, for instance, like what we just saw now in the humanitarian affairs. He has resigned. He said he has resigned, and we saw papers claiming that he has resigned. Okay? Now, but if, for instance, that New Planet Limited say, okay, they want to do consultancy for the Ministry of Interior, that is where the conflict of interest comes in, Ayo. But for now, there is nothing like that. So I think from where we are, the problem I'm having now is that there are some certain set of people who are out there just to rubbish the good work some people are doing. If you are good, Ayo, if your star is shining, there will be some people who want to dim it. Take it. And I think that is what is happening.
Let me read to you. Sorry.
Okay.
On that conflict of interest, just to buttress your point. Conflict of interest would only arise where a public officer is put in a position of dilemma concerning an official position to take. It can only arise where a public officer is directly involved in a decision where he is afforded a direct benefit as a result of his official decision. I read Lemona Onoja yesterday. Very good piece. And let me read to you from his piece. He said, this is what the law says. Let me state quickly that it is a basic principle of company law that ownership of shares, even controlling shares, does not make one an alter ego or director. This was established in Williams versus Adodo Stam International Nigeria Limited, 2022. I think he quoted on that one again, Okomo Oil Palm. He quoted like 5, 6, or 7 or so. When this happened, we have also sought legal opinions because we know that the time may come that you will talk about it. And legally, it's done nothing wrong. I only frown at a situation where public officers, get involved in influence peddling to favor not even their company now. You look at some things that we do in the public space. They ask members of the National Assembly, bring your list. What do they bring?
Exactly.
And all of those things. That is one thing I frowned against there. But in terms of
even at that, you can't even prove.
Let me take it to
if you go to the law court, you can't even prove that.
You can prove them,
Biko, I need your perspective on this case.
Yeah, as far as the law is concerned, Olubunmi Tunji-Ojo has done nothing wrong. And I want to quote the late Justice Abubakar Bashir Wali, Justice of the Supreme Court, in Nwanko versus Nwanko, which was decided in 1994. Let me quote him. He says, Paragraph 2B of the 5th schedule, as worded and enacted, cannot by any stretch of imagination be said to have intended to prevent any public officer, the respondent inclusive, from acquiring interest in a private business like a partnership. What is prohibited by Paragraph 2B to the 5th schedule is for a public officer to engage or participate in the management or running of any private business, profession, or trade. The intendment is not to prevent any person willing to serve as a public officer from merely having an interest in a private business. But what he cannot do is to be a public officer and at the same time hold a managerial or other position in such an undertaking or solely to run the same. This is to avoid the possibility of such an officer having a divided loyalty. If by the time the provision of Paragraph 2B of the 5th schedule came into force, a serving public officer was engaged or was participating in the management or running of any private business, profession, or trade. All that was required of him was to resign from such a position and surrender his management or his running to another person or body. The provision does not prevent any public officer from acquiring interest, simpliciter, in a private business, profession, or trade, or retain any such interest that had already been acquired. What this means is that you are not required to sell your shares because you have chosen to come into government to be a public officer. And our law does not say you must sell your shares. People are allowed to retain their interest in companies, but you must resign from managerial role so that you are not involved in the running of the company. I've had people compare what happened to Batunaji. This is a very ridiculous argument. Batunaji was the minister of power. The business that, the issue at that time was him trying to help a company that he had interest in to gain something from the Ministry of Power. This is a separate ministry. You understand? So when you want to make arguments, for God's sake, make arguments that are logical, that make sense. Make arguments that show that you even understand the issues being discussed. Somebody can be in a different ministry and you use Batunaji's argument, whereas Batunaji was trying to help a company that he had interest in as a minister in his own ministry. So this is a separate ministry. What I don't want to see is ministers giving contracts to their colleagues in government and or their friends without tender, without competitive bidding process. We've seen this before in the aviation ministry. There has to be competitive bidding. If competitive bidding doesn't take place, then Nigerians have every reason to complain. There has to be competitive bidding. Perhaps some company could be better than the company that you are awarding the contract to. That is what we want to see henceforth. But if we are looking purely at what the law says, and I've given the example of the judgment of the Supreme Court of our country, if we are talking strictly about the law, then Tunji-Ojo has done absolutely nothing wrong. Let's not distract ourselves. Let's focus on the elephant in the room. We know who the elephant in the room is. That should be our focus. This is my submission on this matter.
When the topic came, I was trying to Google it, and I read to you what Lemon has said. And clearly, what people are saying about shareholding, from all the things I've read and seen, you can't pin that on him. Let me read another.
You have your wife, you have your children still there.
Okay, AY, we all have. I have companies, for example, and no, I think the wife. He didn't say the wife is there, but that they were both there and they both resigned. I don't know. Let me not, explain what I don't know. One thing I'm trying to do here is not to appear to, but there are some things I've frowned against. But again, I don't want to also, sit on the part that because you don't like this or you don't like this person, you are now pushing things against them, clearly. And this is just the position of the law. I also read another that explained that as a shareholder, you practically have no business except to either sell your shares or, to collect your dividend in any case. And one area that we are taking our attention away from, that I want us to focus on, while you are in this industry, have you not wondered, like he said, why the big thing is not being mentioned again? What has driven that to the background? Why do you think this is the only thing that is in the public space? Why has that been relegated? Of course, agenda setting theory. You know how it's driven in the public space. These are the things I'm angry, at that. Why are we losing the focus of not focusing attention on what has gone? Besides, I think they reported that a company has worked with the same ministry, years back on the same project. So they may get it on that platform, even though we still know that somehow, some way, the minister cannot tell us that he was not aware that that his company got something there. But legally, he has done something wrong, and by the track record of the company, they could get. We all go for example, I refuse to work with government agencies deliberately because one, you criticize them at all times. If they find something on you, they will hold it. That is one. Then two, I believe you compete better in the private sector. They will give the job to the very best. Not it doesn't matter where you're coming from anyway. So that I'm more comfortable with that. But for those who can run both private sector and public sector, I think we should leave them to to do their job. And especially when you have a situation where the guy in question here has stepped on toes. He has reformed so much in that place that he should know that those he has taken out of. Do you think he was just a fluke that he was able to end the passport, the passport delay in just a jiffy without spending one extra dime? It wasn't a fluke. He took it away from some people. And I'm very sure that if he had wanted to benefit, he would have also be benefiting from that. Keeping Nigerians, of course, we can suffer as much as we want. So he's done well. He should not allow himself to be distracted by all of these tiny things. In fact, he should not at all. Because of course, I'm not expecting this to happen again, but if we smell anything on him again, anywhere, I don't think he will have this soft, this soft touch from us. We'll all go all out for him.
Now, in this situation, the president has he has suspended, the humanitarian affairs minister, and do you feel that the president should go, and he has tried to? They are taking a kind of another look at those the programs suspended
I think,
so that they can bring sanity and regulation.
Yeah, I think now that first the matter is under investigation, the president has decided to now take it upon himself. He has set up a special committee to now look at that particular agency. Just like Kolawole was saying, there's a bigger, I don't understand Nigerians anymore. Somebody actually moved about 44 billion, and we are all talking about 500 and something. I'm not saying there are no monies, but nobody was talking about that one anymore. Everybody was now concentrating more about the minister. Yes, both of them did something wrong, and then whether they have done it wrong or not, but the thing is, they are under investigation. We should be zeroing on that big money first, and then also look at this, because we are talking about morals now. Our children, because the government actually brought these two young people as a mirror for all of us to see, the young people to say, oh, we have young ministers. But if this happened, fine. But the thing is, we need to start, but let's allow the process go through, let's allow them go through that process of investigation. And then for the president, who has also moved that ministry. In fact, I was very, very happy that at least that ministry is good. I keep saying it. They have to move that ministry to maybe finance. So that once they need money, they can go to the Ministry of Finance and knock at the door. Those ones will now scrutinize the papers and say, okay, this is the money you want. Because it's like that ministry was just out there as a conduit for some people to be making money from. So it's better it is in the hands of the president. And the president has set up a committee. The committee will now come up with a framework, a solid framework that will allow that ministry to function. Because as it stands today, that ministry is like everybody goes there and then they start picking. It's like a cookie jar. You just go there, pick your own, and you go.
All right. We'll take this, brother. When we come back, we'll talk more. You're still a journalist, and thank you for staying with us. Before we went on break, Asuka was trying to say that maybe that ministry is a kind of free-for-all that it should be scrapped. But even the World Bank even assists this kind of projects to maintain that if you have a country that poverty is ravaging us the way it's ravaging us, that this kind of social intervention program will come in handy. So what do you think should be, how can this ministry be repositioned for effectiveness?
I said somewhere yesterday that we've had, if you look at the 80s where corruption was not this pervasive, you also don't have poverty at this rate. The more or or the more we're having the prevalence of corruption cases, the more poverty is prevailing in the environment. So across the entire, whether it's the Ministry of Humanitarian or across board, the entire system, we have a system that is that allows corruption to thrive. So it will not be the best idea to scrap the ministry, because there are other places too that you will find the same thing. Are you going to scrap them? For me, what our advice is the reform that the president is trying to do, and to ensure that you bring people with track record who can drive it for you. Besides, don't forget that the people also need this, and you can't take it away. You know, you can't take social intervention like this away from the system. And if you move it to the Ministry of Finance, who says the Ministry of Finance itself is, you know, it's also insulated from corruption? The programs that the CBN themselves runs, you know, the social intervention, have you also gone to see that? You go to all the ministries, all the agencies, all the parastatals. Corruption is like a second MC. Everybody going to the office, they see that as an opportunity to go take from the table, not the opportunity to serve. That is why the issue of this young man is quite, you know, painful with what he has done thus far.
All right, moving on now. In our bid